How do you avoid bad habits, like eating junk food or watching too much social media? I'll show you how I do it with Learning Loop. So I have a gigantic pile of notes that keep track of all this accrued wisdom that I have over the years on how to solve my own problems. And these wisdoms are written down in notes. And they're pretty organized, so I can find my way around the system. So for example, I have this one note that I call overcome. And here I keep track of principles for overcoming problems that I face commonly in my life. There are things I can do to overcome specific things, like, for example, feeling sleepy. And there are things that I can do to solve problems in general, like this section, how to avoid maladaptive coping, which basically means acting in a way that I'm going to regret later. So I have these steps in here, including, like, for example, thinking, are you in control? Most often the reason for unhappiness. So much joy comes so often from being in control. Or, are you following your principles? Or, are you adhering to your values? Or articulate what is it that's going wrong. So I just go through these one at a time until I'm less likely to do something that I regret. But how did I write this note? Well, like 4 years ago, I realized that if I was out of control, then I felt much more likely to slip up behaviorally. And so I added this question to myself, are you in control? Because if I ask that, then it gets me to do something that puts me back in control, and I'm much more likely to do something that I'm not going to regret and that I'm proud of. And then another time, like 2 years ago, I realized if I read this page of my principles or if I read this page of my values, then I would feel much more in control and much less likely to slip up. So then I added those things to this same process. And a different time, like 3 years ago, I realized that if I articulated what I was going through, then I would stop experiencing emotions so much and I would start observing emotions, which gave me, again, control and put the higher level me back in the driver's seat. So now after having built this note, I have this resource for how to avoid maladaptive coping. And I'd probably say this note is worth like $500,000 to me. What I think is more interesting than how I avoid bad habits, though, is the general process that I go through to write down the wisdoms that I want to keep track of, organize them, and then use them in the future when I need to. This process and philosophy is called Learning Loop, and the output of it is notes just like this that you can use to solve problems in your life. Because it's just such a high lift to remember something from 5 years ago, and then from 2 years ago, and then from last month, and put it all together without the aid of this external written note. I have a ton of other notes like this, ranging from the spiritual to the professional to the personal. On the Learning Loop podcast, I try to make the principles for creating a system of wisdom like this as simple as possible and as straightforward so you also can learn from your most valuable wisdoms. Stop losing them. Start using them. If you don't know how to start, ask me. And if you do know how to start, give it a try. And if you have given it a try, let me know how it's going for you. Welcome to Learning Loop.